Ricardo Bordallo. Ricardo Jerome Ricky Bordallo was an American U.S. citizen, politician, businessman, and serving 2 terms as the 2nd and 4th Governor of Guam with Lieutenant Governor Rudy Sablan from 1975 to 1979, and with Lieutenant Governor Edward Diego Reyes from 1983 to 1987. A member of the Democratic Party of Guam, Bordallo previously served as a senator in the Guam Legislature from 1957 to 1971. Early life. Bordallo was born on Inata, Guam. He was the son of Baltazar Geronimo B.J. Bordallo, August 8, 1900 May 10, 1984, a businessman, and Joselina Torres Pangilinan in December 18, 1904 December 2, 1945. B.J. Bordallo was a popular politician from the 1930s to 1950s. Ricardo Bordallo was the first child of a family including his brother Paul Joseph Bordallo 1930-2007, who was a former senator. Ricardo Bordallo attended the University of San Francisco before returning to Guam and becoming a successful businessman and car dealer. Among other positions, he was a proprietor of Ricky's Suburban Club, a restaurant and bar in Tamining, Guam. Bordallo also established Ricky's Auto Company in the mid-1950s, which became Toyota's first American car dealer. Personal life. He was married to Madeline Zion Bordallo in 1953. Together they have 1 daughter, Deborah, and 1 grandchild, Nicole Nelson. Bordallo's widow was an unsuccessful candidate for governor in 1990 and served as Lieutenant Governor of Guam from 1995 to 2003. And as the island's delegate to the United States House of Representatives from 2003 until losing renomination in the 2018 election. Senator of the Guam Legislature. Bordallo was first elected to the Guam Legislature in 1956 as a member of the popular party predecessor to the Democratic Party of Guam. Bordallo served in the territorial legislature from 1957 to 1970 and twice served as chairman of the Democratic Party of Guam. As a senator, he introduced the law that first created an unofficial Guam delegate to the U.S. Congress. Bordallo to Tono gubernatorial ticket 1970. Bordallo to Tono gubernatorial ticket 1970. Bordallo first ran for governor in the 1970 election, which was the first election in which the people of Guam were allowed to elect their governor. He ran with Senator Richard Dick Tono against 2 other former gubernatorial teams, former Governor Manuel Guerrero and running mate Dr. Antonio Celsus. Attorney Yamashita, as well as attorney and former Speaker Joaquin Celsus. King Areola and retired judge and former Senator Vicente Bamba. Bordallo Tono came in first in the primary election by a close margin over Guerrero Yamashita and then won the runoff election. However, due to the contentious Democratic campaign, Bordallo Tono lost in the general election to the Republican team of incumbents Carlos G. Camacho and Kurt South Moylan. The election was significant for Bordallo, however, as he and Dick Tono created Guam's first grassroots political organization throughout the villages. Governorship 1975-1979. Governorship 1975-1979. Bordallo Sablan gubernatorial ticket 1974. Bordallo Sablan gubernatorial ticket 1974. Bordallo's wife, Madeline, also proved to be a passionate and untiring campaigner and helped draw many supporters to the organization. This organization and base of supporters would prove valuable when Bordallo ran again in the 1974 election. Madeline Bordallo was most known for her humanitarian pursuits. She sponsored many civil cultural events, including the Guam Symphony and a program for instructing children in the Suzuki method of violin. Bordallo ran for governor for a second time in 1974, this time with Rudolph Rudy Sablan. They were up against 4 other Democratic tickets, Manuel Guerrero and running mate David D. L. Flores, Pedro Celsus, Sanchez and Esteban Torres, and Joaquin Celsus. King Areola and Theodore Ted Nelson. Dick Tono was the manager of the Bordallo Sablan campaign and broadened the organization he had set up in 1970. This organization proved decisive, and Bordallo Sablan easily beat the other Democratic teams. Bordallo Sablan then went on to beat the Camacho Moylan team, which had just barely beat the Republican rival team of Paul Calvo and Antonio Palomo in the primary. Calvo ran as a write-in candidate in the general election, drawing support from Kamasha Moylan, and Bordallo Sablan won by less than 600 of the 22,000 plus votes. First term 1975-79. Bordallo's first term in office from 1975 to 1979 was contentious. He was characterized as highly charismatic but highly controversial. Someone wasn't afraid to speak his mind on any issue. During this time, the issue of independence, statehood, Commonwealth status or continuation as a U.S. territory was put to the voters. Senator Paul Bordallo, his brother, favoured independence. The voters elected to keep the status quo as a dependent territory. Bordallo was successful in securing $367 million for a typhoon reconstruction, capital improvement project and Government of Guam investments. A new was secured at the Guam Memorial Hospital. Bordallo Sanchez gubernatorial ticket 1978. Bordallo Sanchez gubernatorial ticket 1978. In 1978, Bordallo ran for re-election with the former University of Guam president Dr. Pedro Celsus Sanchez as his running mate for lieutenant governor. Lieutenant Governor Sablan declared his candidacy for the gubernatorial election and was a candidate in the September 1978 Democratic primary, along with his running mate for lieutenant governor was attorney Jose Iglesias Leon Guerrero. Bordallo won the Democratic primary and defeated the Sablan-Leon Guerrero campaign with more votes. However, Bordallo lost to the Republican Calvo Ada team in the gubernatorial general election. Governorship 1983-1987. Governorship 1983-1987. Bordallo Reyes gubernatorial ticket 1982. Bordallo Reyes gubernatorial ticket 1982. Bordallo ran for a third-time political arena in 1982 with a political unknown, Air Force Colonel Eddie Reyes, as his running mate. He beat out Democrats Carl Gutierrez and John P. Aguirre for the Democratic nomination and won office yet again. Promising to guide Guam out of the recession and push for Commonwealth status, the Bordallo/Reyes ticket defeated incumbent Governor Calver in the 1982 elections. Second term 1983-87. Bordallo's second term in office from 1983 to 1987. During his second term, Bordallo chaired the Commission for Self-Determination and spearheaded the drafting of the Guam Commonwealth Act developed by June 4, 1986. He addressed Guam's education problems with his 1983 Blueprint for Excellence and worked on the accreditation status of the University of Guam. He went to Washington District of Columbia on January 20, 1985, with Congressman Ben Blas at the Officers Club and Andrews Air Force Base. Bordallo Reyes gubernatorial ticket 1986. Bordallo Reyes gubernatorial ticket 1986. Bordallo sought re-election with Lieutenant Gov. Edward D. Reyes as his running mate. The ticket won the Democratic nomination when they defeated by Senator Gutierrez and Senator John P. Aguirre in the primary election. Bordallo lost the general election to former Lieutenant Governor Ada and Senator Frank Fahrenheit. The laws in the general election. Criminal conviction. In February 1987, Bordallo was convicted on 10 counts of corruption and was sentenced to 9 years in prison and fined more than $100,000. He was accused of receiving over $100,000 worth of bribes and extortion in connection with favors he performed in office or campaign contributions. His convictions on 8 counts of bribery and extortion were overturned in August 1988, leaving charges of obstruction of justice and witness tampering. On December 13, 1989, he was sentenced to 4 years in prison on the remaining charges. Suicide. After his failed appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, Bordallo faced a 4-year sentence in a federal minimum security prison beginning on February 1, 1990. 3 years before he was scheduled to be transferred to a prison in Boron, California the former governor committed suicide in Ata by wrapping himself in a flag of Guam, chaining himself to statue of Chief Kepuha, also Quipuha, Guam's first native chief to convert to Roman Catholicism, located along Marine Corps Drive, the island's primary thoroughfare, and shooting himself in the head with a .38 caliber pistol. He had also set up 4 placards around the monument, one of which paraphrased the last words of Nathan Hale, "I regret that I only have one life to give to my island." Bordallo died of massive brain damage at 4:20 afternoon at Naval Hospital, aged 62. He was buried at Pigo Cemetery in West Anayata. Almost. In January 1997, the Territorial Administration Facility was officially named as Ricardo J. Bordallo Governor's Complex in his honour.